Coming to you from his studio in downtown San Francisco, this is the Backstage Bay Area podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Hey everyone, welcome to Backstage Bay Area. I'm Steve Roby. My guest today is a pianist and composer who has been a defining figure in the jazz world for over 3 decades, despite being just in his early 40s. A native of Menlo Park, he was labeled as a prodigy early on, releasing his debut album at age 14 and beginning his teaching career at the Stanford Jazz Workshop by, drumroll please, age 15. He has since built a staggering resume, performing with luminaries like Dave Brubeck, Sting, and Joshua Redman, and appearing on over 80 albums as a sideman. He is a 2-time Grammy winner, most recently taking home the 2025 trophy for Best Contemporary Instrumental Album for his latest release, Plot Armor. He's here to talk about that record and his upcoming show at SFJAZZ. Welcome, Taylor Eigsti. Taylor, it's so great to have you. Welcome to Backstage Bay Area.
Thanks, Steve. Well, great to be joining you today. Also, it's great to be doing this for the people in the Bay Area because that's where I grew up. And as we're taping this, I'm recovering from a pretty rough loss to the Seahawks because I'm a diehard 49ers fan. And but hopefully by the time this airs, hopefully we'll be healing up and getting ready to win a bunch of playoff games.
Yeah, 49ers are tough fans.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get through this.
Yeah, growing up, my whole family was big 49er fans, and my dad passed away when I was 12, and some of my best memories were watching the Niners win the Super Bowl with him and all of that. So, it goes deep.
The Joe Montana days you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, I think I probably caught more Steve Young days when I kind of came in. I mean, I really loved Joe Montana. Actually, my sister, when she was in the hospital, Joe Montana visited her in the hospital, which I always just had this tremendous respect for Joe Montana, also what he did for the team and everything. But when I kind of got into it, I was born in 1984, and so by the time I was about, I don't know, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, something like that, I was I think they were transitioning to Steve Young, so I really caught that bug pretty hard. I ran into Steve Young several times over the years, and I sat next to him on an airplane, and I nervously, after I waited the whole flight, and then my hand was shaking, and I handed him a piece of paper, passed him a note that just said, "I was you for Halloween twice. Can you sign this piece of paper?" And he was just really nice about it and stuff. And,
That's cool. That's cool. Well, let's transition to your musical roots here in the Bay Area. You began playing the piano at age 4 and were quickly identified as a prodigy, as I just mentioned. Looking back at that time in Menlo Park, was there a specific spark moment or a particular record you heard early on that made you realize this wasn't just a hobby, but it's going to be your life's path?
Well, my sister was a great jazz and rock pianist, and she got a chance to play with the Doobie Brothers, and she passed away when she was 17, when I was 3 years old, but I would be a toddler watching her play, and I think she's probably the biggest driving force behind becoming a professional musician and or doing that for my life. And when I was 8 years old, I asked my dad how much my favorite pianist at the time, David Benoit, how much he had to pay each time he performs, and he was like, "Well, no, he gets paid to do that." And so I decided right then and there that, I'll be a musician then. And growing up, I was really lucky to have a lot of great heroes and mentors and people who just, offered a lot of inspiration. And I had a lot of encouragement growing up. I kind of got labeled a prodigy, but my theory is that really if you're a young kid and you're out performing in public, usually most people will just call you a prodigy no matter what. Because I hear YouTube prodigies now, and I'm like, well, I wasn't like that. But I'm grateful for that experience because I think it's a good thing for any young person to get told that they're good at something. So I had a lot of positive encouragement, which led me to just really dream big and want to keep going with it and all of that. And so I'm grateful for, especially in the Bay Area, I had a lot of mentors and people that gave me a lot of opportunities, like Dr. Herb Wong, He would, an incredible producer and jazz curator, and Bud Spangler, so many, everyone at Stanford Jazz Workshop, so many more. But I was really, it was, every time I'm back there, it feels like home. I'm actually going to be back there in less than 2 weeks on January 17th at SFJAZZ. And so I love any chance I have to be back in the Bay Area, and usually end up performing back there about 4 times a year. And I love it. And also, I live in New York, and it's unbelievably cold this morning, and it just is a reminder of anytime I'm out there. I was out there a couple weeks ago to go to a friend's wedding and go to a 49er game, and it's just nice to, I didn't really appreciate the weather growing up to the same degree, because it's just it's always nice, But then now living in New York for nearly 20 years, it's every time I'm in the Bay, it's just extra special.
I guess I can't complain about 50-degree weather and a foggy morning here in San Francisco. So,
right, yeah, fog is much better than frozen, dirty ice.
Yeah, okay.
Which
I'll
is
take
everywhere
the fog,
on the ground here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to dive into the music you brought us today. The first track is called Sparky. It's from your 2021 album, Tree Falls. I understand this composition is a structural tribute to a specific animation history. Can you share the backstory of this track and the childhood favorite that inspired it?
Yeah, for sure. This is a song, as a composer, sometimes there's certain songs that I've written in 15 minutes and I'm really happy with it. And sometimes some songs take about 10, 15 years to write, and, keep changing over time and all that. Sparky is a song that had a lot of different names over time and changed its form dramatically. And by the time I was putting together that album, Tree Falls, I decided to kind of change it one more time and structurally turn the song into more of a tribute to my favorite cartoon character growing up, which was an animated film. It's about a 45-minute film called Sparky's Magic Piano. I had this on VHS, and my mom and dad used to force me to watch this because it tells a really good lesson. There's a kid that has a piano that starts magically playing itself, and it talks to the kid chordally, it's just super weird if you ever watch it. It's I always love that part where the piano's talking, but the piano decided that it would start playing virtuosically by itself. So his mom and his piano teacher, they have this idea of like, well, we have to put him on a worldwide tour now. And he was flying all around, Carnegie Hall, Red Rocks, all sorts, Hollywood Bowl, all of these really cool venues. And but the kid got really cocky, and he wasn't doing any of the work. And so the piano decided to teach him a lesson, and it stopped playing. And it said, I was trying to help out a nice little boy, but now you've become, completely full of yourself and all of this. And so it ends not to spoil the whole thing, but hey, I've seen it 1,000 times, so yeah, I'd still watch it again. Okay. But yeah, it ends with him being at home, really starting to practice and all of that, and it kind of teaches, young people who would watch it a lesson of, you can do some amazing things, but you gotta put the work in, and you have to stay humble and be nice to the people around you and all those things. So. But yeah, my parents used to make me watch that, and to kind of make sure that I wasn't, that I was staying humble and working hard. But then I just, I always just loved, I would beg them to put it on. I'm like, I want to watch Sparky again. And so when I was writing this tune and kind of rewriting it for Tree Falls, I called it Sparky as a tribute to that kid in the cartoon. But there's a line that the piano plays that, and a lot of different instruments play this line, and the line's kind of a repeated line. And to me, I wanted to have something that would represent the sense of automation, like the piano playing itself, like something's going on mechanically. And then there's big chords and swells that happen on top of that line that we're kind of trying to simulate the piano talking to Sparky in different ways and all that. And there's a whole chaotic section in the middle where a lot of things are happening. And I always really loved the music in that Sparky's Magic Piano, because I just watched it a couple weeks ago. I was showing my wife, and I wanted her to finally see this.
Wow,
and
cool.
But we were really enjoying the music of it. Is just really interesting because it's like little bits of famous classical compositions, but then in these chaos scenes, there's just like a lot going on. So I wanted to have a section in the song that kind of simulated that. And at the end, there's a section that in the chart, I have it as the title of that section is The Clearing. But when you get to that point, then it's just a fun sax solo. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the reward at the end of, actually putting in the work is then you get to sit back and listen to Ben Wendell just rip on the saxophone.
Wow.
So,
cool.
But yeah, it's a really fun song to, I only play that song when I have enough instruments in the band to be able to play it. It certainly has a lot in it. And actually on the recording of this, there's over 130 different tracks of strings and all sorts of different stuff. So it has a lot of moving parts in it.
All right.
And, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing the backstory. And let's listen to it now. This is Sparky by Taylor Eigsti, and you're listening to Backstage Bay Area. And we're back. We just heard Sparky from Taylor Eigsti's album Tree Falls, which is available now. Taylor is my guest today. Taylor, I want to pivot for a moment to your community work, which I applaud you on. In 2022, you premiered a major project commissioned by the Hewlett Foundation called Imagine Our Future. It featured a 12-person band and crowdsourced over 100 musical ideas from youth across Northern California. Can you walk us through the process of distilling the many diverse ideas from young people into a single cohesive piece of music?
Yeah, that was one of the coolest and biggest challenges I've ever had as a composer. The idea of Imagine Our Future is that a wide array of different young people in the Bay Area all responded to the same prompt, which was just imagine our future. So it was very open-ended, like in terms of what that would mean to them and what kind of medium that they could submit an idea in. So some people submitted photography, visual artwork, some musical ideas, some lyric ideas, words, poems, all sorts of different things, even a little bit of choreography. And basically what my goal was to, it was really fun and a challenge for me where I got to kind of play God and put it all together. Each one of the students, though, used at least some part of all of their idea in some way. So they would have no control over what parts or how it would be used, but I would make sure that everything was somehow in there. But I think that also kind of like, to me, mirrored the entire process of creating and how you create something, you throw it out there, and then at that point you have no control over it. You know, how it might affect people, where it might end up.
Right.
And so I wanted them, as people submitting, I wanted them to have that experience of, it might surprise you. Like, for instance, there was a 6-year-old that submitted a painting that had like these flying dolphins in it and in the sky and just all sorts of wild, wacky things in the scene.
Whoa.
And she had this long description. And her description of the scene, I turned into lyrics of actually the song that opened the whole 12-song performance, which was called "You Know the Big Bang." And she, and her words were like, "You know the Big Bang while I'm imagining another one." And this one had all this kind of, and so I had a really special band featuring Lisa Fisher singing. And, she was telling all these people's stories. I also had a narrator in this that I found a guy who sounds exactly like David Attenborough. And and the beginning of it basically tells the story of a time traveler that went back. The world was about to end, and he went back to the year 2018 and the ancient land of the Bay Area, California, to talk to young people about what their vision is to build a world that would survive. It was really cool. My favorite parts of that were using ideas in different ways than they were intended. I had a film that was for all of the 12 songs that was projected in the background. So part of the toughest part about this for me was for an 80-minute performance, editing together different films for each song that could incorporate some of the artwork, some of the choreography, some of the other things, some of the lyrics projected, just some quotes from different people. But it was really cool how it all came together. And, by the time it got delayed because there was COVID and all that kind of stuff. But by the time I actually performed it, it's interesting. A lot of the kids that had submitted, a big chunk of them were like off to college and, they had moved on. But there was a handful that actually showed up to the concert, which was really cool. And I got to, interact with them and talk with them about how their idea was used and all of that kind of stuff. So it was really special. And it's probably maybe the most, I've done a lot of work with symphony orchestras, but this was probably the most large scale for a single concert. And I'm never going to, I've decided that I'm never going to perform that concert again. It's a one-time thing that, for me, there's the concept of palimpsest, which is like when, these Tibetan monks, they'll make like sand mandala artwork. And it's really intricate and amazing. And then they'll brush it all away, where there's something that exists, it's beautiful, and then it disappears. So, because I think all of these ideas were just a snapshot in time, and they were a snapshot of one region. I did this project in a different country and crowdsourced ideas on the same prompt with people there, it'd be a 100% different story being told. So I want to preserve that as the one time that would be performed. However, some of the songs from it, I think were pretty good tunes. So I was able to kind of take some of these tunes, and there's on my newest album, Plot Armor, there's a song called Look Around You, and that was the third movement of Imagine Our Future. And the eighth movement of Imagine Our Future, which is a song called Am I Beautiful Yet, that's going to be on the next album. I do that with Lisa Fisher all the time, and she just really owns that tune. And so, I like still taking some of the music from that and, using that on different records or doing so that the music still continues. But the actual event, all of the, it was just for the 700 or so people that were there, and we all experienced it together once. And there's something special about that.
What an amazing story. Gosh.
Oh, thanks. It was, it was also it was 5 years of work. So I was like, I really don't want to, I'm not adverse to taking on big projects again, but there's so many other things that I want to do. And I'm working on a new album and a lot of collaborations with other people that, I don't think I would have time for another 5-year long big project like that at the moment. But you never know. Someday there could be another crowdsourced thing. I like taking, unexpected sources of ideas and then turning that into music. That's always, there's so many different ways to compose, but that's one of my favorite ways of composing is just, grabbing ideas from other places and seeing what you can do to, put it in a musical form.
Wow. Well, you mentioned your album Plot Armor, and the second song you've chosen for this discussion is a song titled Fire Within. The track has a deeply emotional and personal origin story involving your mother's writings. Could you tell us about the lyrics for this song and the collaborators you chose to help bring this heavy, beautiful story to life?
Well, thanks. Fire Within was a tune that I recorded really late in the process of recording Plot Armor. Plot Armor took 71 days in the studio to make, and we were pretty much in the end of that process. But then when an idea comes in, it's just sometimes the muse can be so fleeting. So I really felt like I needed to go with this idea. Plot Armor, my mom passed away a week before we started recording that album, and the album is dedicated to her. Growing up, my mom was a very, very big driving force of my career, a source of support. She also, it was one of her goals in life, or she always wanted me to win a Grammy and all that. I never really grew up thinking too much about that. I was more concerned with the Niners, and I would trade either one of those Grammys for another Super Bowl win, but that's another story. But my mom was, she had dementia and Alzheimer's, and in the last 10 years of her life, it really, really got worse and worse. As anyone who has gone through that knows, it's it only goes in one direction. And during she died at a very interesting time, because it was when someone has dementia, it can actually be when they pass away. As far as people I've talked to have gone through the same thing, sometimes it's actually a sense of relief in a way. I felt like she was reunited with her personality then, and she wasn't in pain or anything and all of that. But as a result of her declining mental condition, it had been a long time since I really had an actual conversation with her. Even when she was alive, it would be like, a very circular conversation where she's not going to understand much, Mm-hmm. So communicating was nearly impossible for the last 2 years, I would say. So I knew that I needed to plan her memorial service, and I could hear her voice in my head saying, finish this record first. What are you doing? Just do that afterwards. Because I really knew my mom, and that's what she would have said. And so I decided to make this album and create a tribute to her through that. And then I decided that I would plan her memorial service after we finish this. Because, there's really no time limit on those things. I don't know there's no rules and there's no anything. And I knew I also needed some time to really get to know her again in a weird way, to be able to, say something meaningful at her service and all of that. So, and also she had her entire memorial service mapped out in drafts in her emails. Wow. So my mom was, she was a frustrated writer. She always wanted to publish these stories that she would write. And she would, and especially in later years, it became really important for me to be able to go into her email and things like that, so that I could, for some, when we needed medical information or all of that kind of stuff. She was a level 11 hoarder as well. So it was impossible to like find anything, So her emails were filled with like 800 drafts that were just kind of like stories that she started.
Wow.
Sometimes it was free writing, just her thinking and her emotions and all of that. And there was little notes in there saying like, stop laughing, Taylor, or whatever. Like I think she fully knew that I would be going through all of these at some point. But I needed to do that to kind of hear her voice again in a way. And there was so many lists of places that she wanted to go and things that she wanted to see. And a lot of them she just never got around to. There was a lot of fighting for hope. There was a lot of, some of it's really dark. And in writing a song for her, there's really 2 songs on the record that are directly for her. One is called Beyond the Blue that Gretchen Parlato co-wrote with me, and she wrote a beautiful story about just accepting when someone has moved on, and so that song's for her as well. But I wanted a song that actually was taking my mom's words and using them as lyrics, especially since I was fresh off of that Imagine Our Future thing, where I'm pretty used to that kind of a thing, like taking a source of words or ideas and throwing them into a song. But I thought, how cool would that be if I could? I was already looking through all that stuff anyways to plan her service, and I was really starting to feel where her heart was in a way. And so everything, I wrote the lyrics of the song in that I, structured them and ordered them, but every phrase was something that my mom wrote. So the lyrics of this, some of it is, the room is cold and the silence is deafening, even though the walls around me are screaming. Whatever happened to the fearless young woman? These are all phrases that my mom wrote in emails.
Really?
Like some of them were just at the end of another. Some of them she wrote a million times because she had, the dementia would make her forget that she already wrote stuff. So, but there's always noise. The roof is shot. The foundation is sinking. This broken house keeps me from writing my stories, so consider me under construction. My mom was always complaining about our house that was, the only house that I grew up in. But it was like, she would just notice all of this. If you can picture someone waking up alone with their dog, kind of aware of her deteriorating mental condition, and waking up and going to her computer and writing these drafts, and then just kind of complaining about all of this stuff going wrong with the house. But I saw the house as a metaphor also for her brain. There's things like but there's a lot of fighting through things like, just mark my words, my life has made me stronger, living like a day in the life of a shirt, put through the ringer, coming out clean. These are all things. I love her writing, the way that there's like
Beautiful.
too much chatter in my head, better keep it somewhere, because writers write, or so I'm told. I'll do it all before I get too old, or you'll tell my stories for me.
Wow.
So there's really special things in there. So I wanted Lisa Fisher to embody that spirit. And so when she went in to do the recording session, she put pictures of my mom up in the booth, and she tried to channel kind of some of my mom's rage that would come out, and where my mom was desperately crying out to, like, she wanted to do all of the things and wanted to tell her stories and all of this, but then she was in this broken house and all of this kind of stuff. So that's the story behind that tune. I also had Julian Lage playing with me on that, and I wanted to do that song with 2 people that I very much consider family, like Lisa, very much family. We've become super close over the years. Julian's always been one of my best friends, and someone I grew up playing with, even when I think we did our first show in the Bay Area when I was 14 and he was 11. So long history with Julian. He knew my mom, and so it felt right to record this with them. And it's my personal favorite track on Plot Armor because it's the most personal, and my mom got to have lyrics of her own lyrics on a Grammy-winning album. So I thought, I wanted to, I was really, it was special to be able to honor her in that way.
Thanks for setting that up. There's nothing else I can add, but let's listen to it now. This is Fire Within by Taylor Eigsti.
This room is cold and the silence is deafening. Even though the walls around me are screaming, whatever happened to the fearless young woman? There's always noise. The roof is shut, the foundation is sinking. This broken house keeps me from writing my stories. So consider me under construction. Don't get me wrong, I'm starting from the inside out, 'cause I wanna do it all. At least I can see the shadows of dancing leaves, searching for the fire within. Just mark my words. My life has made me stronger. Living like a day in the life of a shirt put through the ringer, coming out clean. Too much chatter in my head, but I keep it somewhere, 'cause right is right, or so I'm told. I'll do it all before I get too old. You tell my stories for me. Don't get me wrong, no, I'm starting from the inside out. I wanna do it all, but at least I can see the shadows of dancing leaves, searching for the fire within. Don't get me wrong, no, I'm starting from the inside out. I wanna do it all, oh yeah, but at least I can see the shadows of dancing leaves, searching for the fire within.
That was The Fire Within by Taylor Eigsti. It's from his album Plot Armor, and you're listening to Backstage Bay Area. Taylor, you're returning to the Bay Area on Saturday, January 17th to play the Minor Auditorium at SFJAZZ. It's a special double bill as part of Terrence Blanchard's Upswing series, where you'll be sharing the stage with saxophonist Melissa Aldana, which we had on the show just last week. For this homecoming show for you, who's joining you on stage?
You know, this will be a really special one. Oscar Seaton will be playing drums, Charles Altura playing guitar. They were both on Plot Armor. Charles has been on a lot of my albums, but both of them were on Plot Armor, and Jonathan Marin will be playing bass, who I've started to tour a lot with in my group, and I just love the way that he plays. I mean, it'll be somewhat of a short set because it's a double bill, so we're both just doing 2, 50-minute sets and all of that. And so we're gonna play some stuff off of Plot Armor and Tree Falls and revisit a few things. And I was thinking about writing something brand new for that particular concert that would be extra complicated and all this stuff. And then I was like, why don't we just reconnect the four of us and and just have fun with it and stuff. And I think it's possible Melissa and I might play something at the very, very end.
Wow, that'd be nice.
But we're, as it stands right now, it'll just be 2 separate sets. And I love Melissa Aldana, the way that she plays.
I was going to ask you,
She's an incredible, one of the best saxophonists in the world, and just a extremely sweet person. And but I've been a big fan of hers for a long time. So I'm excited. I'm honored to be sharing that bill with her, and it's an honor to bring my group into minor auditorium. I've wanted to do that for many years, and I've played at minor so many times with other groups, and so I'm thankful to Terrence and thankful to SFJAZZ for giving me that opportunity.
It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic night of music. And let me remind our listeners, you can catch Taylor Eigsti with Melissa Aldana live on Saturday, January 17th at SFJAZZ's Minor Auditorium. The show starts at 7:30 p.m. Get there early, I would say. Tickets are now available at sfjazz.org, and we'll include a direct link in the show notes for this podcast. And I'm going to try to find a link on YouTube for Sparky that you mentioned earlier, maybe a couple other things, so that people, if they're interested, they could take a deeper dive.
Yeah, that whole little movie is available on YouTube,
okay,
which is so great because I didn't want to have to go find my VHS player and do it that way. So it's on YouTube. So yeah, check that out.
I'm going to go watch it right after this podcast, but and I encourage our listeners to do so as well. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these great stories with us.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
We'll be right back after this.
Are you a jazz musician preparing for a run in San Francisco? The Backstage Bay Area podcast wants to help tell your story. We are currently filling our guest lineup with the artists keeping the jazz scene alive. If you have dates booked at a local club or concert hall, let's get you on the mic to discuss your latest work. Connect with us directly. Send an email to backstage.sfbay@gmail.com. Just let us know when you'll be playing in San Francisco. That's backstage.sfbay@gmail.com.
You've been listening to the Backstage Bay Area podcast. Visit us on the web at backstagebayarea.com. And don't forget to keep jazz alive in the 415.